Have you ever woken up and wondered, is this really it? Is this all there is to my life? That quiet ache, that whisper of dissatisfaction is not a flaw, it's a signal. A signal that life is nudging you toward your deeper purpose. If you felt that emptiness, that tug that something more is waiting for you, you're not alone. And today, we're not just talking about purpose. We're building a process for discovering it, step by step, so you can finally create the life you've always wanted. That feeling of restlessness you carry? That lingering sense that something is missing, that your life is on autopilot even though everything looks fine on the surface? Don't ignore it. That feeling isn't a flaw in your character. It's not a sign of weakness or ingratitude. It's a gift, an internal signal that your life is trying to talk to you. We've been conditioned to dismiss restlessness, to hush it down with distractions, responsibilities, and endless to-do lists. But what if I told you that this discomfort is actually your intuition's way of waking you up? What if that gentle, persistent discomfort is your soul's whisper reminding you that you were made for more? You see, when you experience restlessness, it's not because you're broken. It's because there's an undiscovered part of you calling out. It's your future self trying to get your attention, saying, "Hey, I'm over here, and I need you to move." But instead, what we often do is numb it. We fill our lives with noise, scrolling endlessly, binge-watching shows, staying busy just to avoid sitting with ourselves in silence. But that silence is where the truth lives. That discomfort is where your deeper questions are waiting. What if, instead of drowning it, you asked yourself, what exactly am I restless about? Where in my life do I feel stuck, small, unseen? Because here's the truth. Restlessness is often not about the external things, the job title, the routine, the roles we play. It's about what's happening inside. It's about knowing that there's a version of you that hasn't yet been fully expressed, a side of you that feels stifled. And if you don't honor that calling, the restlessness doesn't disappear. It morphs into frustration, bitterness, sometimes even resentment. That's when people wake up years later, wondering where their passion, their spark, their why went. But it was always there. It was just buried beneath layers of fear, doubt, and convenience. So what if, instead of labeling this restlessness as a problem, you started seeing it as a guide? What if it's not about changing everything overnight, but simply being honest with yourself? What am I no longer willing to settle for? That's how purpose begins. Not in grand epiphanies, but in the quiet moments when you finally choose to listen to what's been trying to speak to you all along. And when you start listening, you'll realize something else. There are pieces of you that you've forgotten. That's where the second step begins. Reconnecting with the forgotten parts of yourself is essential, because purpose isn't something you find in the outside world. It's something you remember within yourself. Life has a way of making us forget who we are. Somewhere along the line, between responsibilities, relationships, disappointments, and survival, we compromise. We let go of dreams we thought were childish. We abandon hobbies that once made us feel alive because they didn't fit the mold of adulthood. We quiet the parts of us that are loud, messy, creative, daring, because life taught us that it's safer to be small, to conform, to follow the script. But every forgotten part of you is still there waiting. Think back. What was it that made you lose track of time when you were younger? What activity, conversation, or skill made you feel electric, fully present? That's not just nostalgia, that's a clue. Those forgotten joys, those moments where you felt most like yourself, they are guideposts back to your purpose. Reconnecting with them is not about turning your life upside down. It's about integrating those lost parts back into your present self. It's about allowing yourself to feel alive again, not just exist. Because when you remember who you were before the world told you who to be, you start to unlock the blueprint for the life you're meant to build. We often chase purpose like it's some prize waiting out there in the world. But the truth is, you can't build a meaningful life on top of wounds you've buried deep within. You can't construct your future with bricks that are still cracked from the past. And yet, that's what so many of us try to do. We keep pushing forward, pretending we've moved on, pretending we're stronger, but deep down there are stories we've never confronted. Stories of betrayal, rejection, failure. Moments that made us question our worth, moments that taught us to play small because it felt safer. But here's what I've learned. Unhealed pain doesn't disappear, it just disguises itself. It shows up in our relationships, in our self-doubt, in the opportunities we don't take because some part of us whispers, "You're not good enough for this." We've been taught to move on, but moving on without healing is like running with a sprained ankle. You might still be moving, but every step hurts and eventually you'll collapse. Healing isn't about erasing what happened. It's about rewriting the meaning we've attached to it. It's sitting with your pain long enough to understand that while it shaped you, it doesn't have to define you. Because purpose isn't born from a perfect life. It's born from the lessons we gain from our scars. When we heal, our pain transforms from a heavy burden into a powerful compass. Think about it. Some of the most inspiring, purposeful people you know have turned their deepest pain into their greatest platform. They didn't let their story end with the wound. They chose to keep writing until that pain became their strength, their message, their mission. When you start the process of healing, you create space for new dreams, for new possibilities. You stop seeing life through the fog of your past, and you begin to see the world with clarity, with openness. That's when your purpose starts to reveal itself, because you're no longer viewing your life through the lens of hurt. You're seeing it through the lens of growth. And that growth leads us to an essential question. What breaks your heart? That might sound like an odd place to look for purpose, but often, the things that wound us deeply, that stir something inside of us, are the very clues to our mission. Purpose isn't always about chasing what excites you. It's also about running toward what moves you, what challenges your sense of justice, compassion, and humanity. Think about it. What stories in the news make you stop scrolling? What situations or struggles do you hear about that make your chest tighten, that make you think, this shouldn't be happening, or someone needs to change this? That reaction, that ache, is not random. It's your soul recognizing where it's needed most. We live in a world where it's easy to get desensitized, to turn away from things that hurt to witness. But what if those very things we want to turn away from are the exact places where we're called to show up? What if your purpose lives in that intersection between your abilities and the world's needs? Maybe it's mentoring someone who reminds you of your younger self, or advocating for a cause that once left you feeling powerless. Maybe it's simply being a voice, a presence, a helper in spaces where others feel invisible. When we allow what breaks our heart to guide us, not consume us, but guide us, we start living for more than just ourselves. And when you live for more than just yourself, life gains a depth, a meaning, that no achievement, no status, no external validation can replicate. Have you ever noticed how your energy changes depending on who you're around? How some people leave you feeling inspired, elevated, like you could take on the world, while others leave you second-guessing yourself, shrinking, doubting everything you thought you were capable of. That's not by accident. The energy we absorb from the people around us is as real, as potent, and as impactful as the food we eat or the air we breathe. And yet, so many of us spend years surrounded by voices that dim our light. People who mean well but project their own fears onto us. People who are so trapped in their own limitations that they can't help but place those same limits on us. Without even realizing it, we start playing small to make others comfortable. We start doubting our dreams because we're not hearing reflections of possibility. We're hearing echoes of insecurity. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to remain where your growth is suffocated. If you want to build a life of purpose, you have to fiercely protect your environment. Just like a plant needs the right soil, the right sunlight, the right water to thrive, your purpose needs the right surroundings to grow. And that doesn't just mean physically, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. What conversations are you having? Are they rooted in possibility, creativity, compassion? Or are they steeped in complaint, comparison, complacency? Who you spend your time with either feeds your vision or starves it. And I get it. Sometimes the people closest to us can't see our potential because they're used to who we've always been. They can't imagine us growing because that growth challenges the story they've written about us. And sometimes even the story they've written about themselves. But that's why you have to consciously seek out relationships, communities, content, spaces that breathe life into your ambitions. Be around people who remind you of who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Surround yourself with energy that doesn't just accept your evolution, but expects it. Because when you're immersed in that kind of energy, growth becomes natural. Ideas flow. Confidence builds. Purpose begins to feel not just possible, but inevitable. And yet, even in the best environment, you'll notice something else. Your purpose won't stay the same. One of the biggest misconceptions we hold is that purpose is this fixed, singular thing. That once you find it, it remains static, like a trophy you place on a shelf and admire forever. But that's not how life works. Purpose isn't a destination. It's a dynamic journey that evolves as you do. Who you are today is not who you were 10 years ago, and it certainly won't be who you are 10 years from now. So why do we expect our purpose to stay unchanged? The truth is, purpose is fluid because we are fluid. Every experience, every relationship, every challenge reshapes us. It adds layers to our understanding of ourselves and the world. What feels meaningful to you now might shift as you grow, and that's not a sign that you're lost. It's a sign that you're alive. Sometimes we cling so tightly to an old version of our purpose because we're scared to let go, scared that if we release it, we'll have nothing to hold on to. But letting go isn't losing, it's making space. It's trusting that new seasons of life bring new layers of meaning. So give yourself permission to evolve. Allow your purpose to grow with you, to shift, to adapt. What matters isn't that it stays the same, but that it stays honest. That it continues to reflect who you are becoming. Because when you allow your purpose to be a living, breathing companion rather than a rigid blueprint, you don't just chase meaning. You create it again and again, with every new version of yourself that emerges. When we talk about purpose, it's easy to imagine that one day we'll wake up, have a moment of clarity, and suddenly know exactly what we're meant to do. But that's not how it works. Purpose isn't revealed in a lightning strike of inspiration. It's uncovered through the practice of daily courage. And I say practice because courage isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a muscle you build moment by moment, choice by choice. Every single day, you're presented with opportunities to choose bravery over comfort. The question is, are you saying yes to them? Courage isn't about grand, sweeping gestures. It's not always about quitting your job tomorrow or making some dramatic life change. More often, it looks like having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding because you're afraid of disappointing someone. It looks like applying for an opportunity even when you don't feel fully ready. It's saying no to something that no longer aligns with you, even when that no feels terrifying. It's expressing a truth you've kept hidden for years, unsure of how the world will respond. These small, daily acts of courage are what shape the path to your purpose. Because every time you choose courage over comfort, you remind yourself that you are capable of more than your fear wants you to believe. And I know fear feels like a permanent shadow. It walks with you, whispers in your ear, tries to convince you to stay safe, stay small, stay silent. But courage doesn't mean the fear disappears. It means you acknowledge it, look it in the eye, and decide to move forward anyway. The most purposeful lives are not lived by people who felt fearless. They're lived by people who chose not to be led by fear. When you practice courage daily, you create momentum. You build a life that moves, not one that waits. Waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect clarity, the perfect confidence will leave you standing still for years. But choosing to act imperfectly, even shakily, that's where growth happens. That's where purpose starts to take form, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. And as you walk this courageous path, there's something essential you need to remember. Purpose is not just duty. It's not just responsibility or service. It must also be joy. We've been conditioned to think that purpose should feel heavy, noble, even sacrificial. That if it's meaningful, it must also be hard, draining, a constant uphill battle. But that's not the kind of purpose that sustains you. True purpose isn't just about what you owe the world. It's about what lights you up from the inside. It's about the thing that, when you do it, you feel energized, alive, connected, not just to others, but to yourself. Joy is the universe's affirmation. It's the signal that you are on the right path, that you are not just giving to the world, but receiving in return. That reciprocal flow of energy, where what you give feeds others and what you receive feeds your soul, is where lasting purpose lives. If what you're doing drains you, depletes you, makes you dread waking up, then that's not purpose. That's obligation in disguise. Your purpose should challenge you, yes, but it should also excite you. It should stretch you and at the same time fill you. So ask yourself, what do I do that makes me lose track of time? What activities, conversations, or contributions leave me feeling full rather than empty? What is the thing that I would do even if no one noticed, even if there was no applause, because it makes me feel more like me? That's your joy. And when your purpose is aligned with your joy, you don't just build a life you're proud of, you build a life you love living. That's when purpose stops being just a mission and starts being a state of being. Your purpose isn't waiting in some distant place. It's within you, asking to be uncovered, step by step. Don't wait for the perfect time or perfect clarity. Start with curiosity. Start messy. Start now. If this conversation stirred something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. What part resonated the most? What's one step you're ready to take? Let's inspire each other. And if you found value in this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of your transformational journey. Tell me, what topics would you love to explore next? Your voice guides this space. Let's build this community together.